Well, Rebecca, this was my request as a topic, and it's about the challenges of managing someone for real who's experiencing mental health issues. I don't want to make that sound over dramatic. I don't want to move into clinical areas that neither of us are qualified to go into. But the challenges of managing behaviors, attitudes, emotions of people that are unfamiliar, that might have come from nowhere, and how difficult that is. And I've seen this firsthand, both recently and over many years, and I think it's worth knocking around.
Yeah, and it's very sort of in vogue, isn't it? I think at the minute with mental health stuff, and as we were discussing before, it's always good to be, prevention's better than cure, but unfortunately, people do have these experiences where they're experiencing it, where things have maybe come up unexpectedly or gradually eroded and things haven't been dealt with. So we have got a lot of people who's experiencing mental health issues in the moment, and I think it is important to know how to deal with those sorts of things. Definitely, yeah.
I can't help I can't help taking a somewhat retrospective view on this because conscious as I am of being so old, 45 years of being in the workplace. This was not talked about in the 1980s. There was not even a stigma about this. People talk about stress management, but in a somewhat abstract sort of way. Nothing like, as you say, the current, I'd like to think awareness, but certainly discussion around this. It is talked about. Is it dealt with in the workplace as well as it could be?
Probably not. I think, but I think sometimes the issue is if you get a lot of people experiencing this. So if you've got a manager who's also experiencing some challenges, then it becomes harder for them to deal with somebody else. And think sometimes we get triggered by other people's experiences. And so for me, I think it's always worth remembering that staying focused on, well, yeah, deciding what you're going to stay focused on. Are you focusing on helping them? Are you focusing on managing the situation and choosing how best to deal with things and doing it sensitively?
Yeah, all right. I wonder, I wonder if there's going to be a third one. Because for me, yeah, you could choose those two options, or, and I think I've seen this many times, the option that is just choosing either to ignore it, disregard it, or to put it, or to place less significance on it than it should, because you want to get the job done most. You want performance from that person more than you want to be concerned about them, the human being. So I think being realistic, and you won't see this on a LinkedIn visual, too often there's a suck it up, just get over it. I've experienced worse than you. I'm your manager. I can take it. I think there is too much of that in a lot of workplaces. I think sometimes we believe the world we read about too much, and we don't have to look too hard to find examples of places that are less emotionally intelligently run and less caring, perhaps. Or am I
Mm.
being?
I think it probably does depend. I think different industries and different sectors will have different experiences of this. And probably a lot of it comes down to managers, line managers, team leaders, and their ability to deal with things like this as well, or willingness to deal with things. I think sometimes when you say about people ignoring it, I think people ignore it because they don't know what to do, but they don't know how to handle it, or it just feels very uncomfortable and they don't feel that they have the necessary skills to deal with it. So they'd rather just, right, if I ignore it, it's not there.
And I think sometimes someone who's experiencing these difficulties, these challenges, I'm going to say these words, but I don't mean them, don't help themselves. They don't know how to help themselves. Very few people, particularly as you say, in some cultures, which might be a bit more macho, a bit more performance driven, a bit more vulnerable. If I make myself look imperfect, it's gonna cost me my career type environments. It's you don't get too many people say, "Hey, boss, I'm going through some really difficult issues right now. I need your help." I don't think that happens as often as we might want to believe it does.
No, and I think you've hit on something there. Is there is still a stigma around it, I think, to some degree. It might
Mm.
not be as it was before, but I think there is a worry that if I own up to this, there will be consequences and backlashes from this. And,
Mm.
I don't want this to sort of tarnish my image at work. I don't want this to be put on my, absence, sorry,
Mm.
health record at work. So it's a very tricky thing. If people don't feel safe enough, I suppose this comes down to sort of feeling of psychological safety in the workplace
You got
as
there ahead
well.
of me. I'll write it down.
uh, that if they don't feel that level of safety, then they won't seek help. But unfortunately, that's when things are likely to get worse unless there's somebody who can access help and reach out for help outside of workplace.
Yeah, and that happens too, doesn't it? I mean, a lot of organizations are rightly proud of their employee assistance programs, their occupational health, their mental health. We hear about mental health first aiders. I sometimes want to ask those mental health first aiders, how much of that do you do? Or is it just ticking a box of the organization and say we've got them, but no one ever comes for help? I just don't know. And maybe I'll start asking that question of people. But I think sometimes there is provision for help, but is that help even made use of?
I don't think it is. And I think that's a really good point with the mental health first aiders. I think a lot of places do have them now, and there's training offered and stuff, and we've had it at work. But how proactive are we in promoting that? And, you know, I almost feel like if you're having to ask for that sort of support, it's already gone quite a way down the line where maybe something could have been done much sooner. So maybe these things need to be more open and not I think there's also a thing around are these things just tick boxes in an organization? Oh yes, look, we have mental health first aiders. Oh yes, we have the employee assistance program. Yes, we care about our staff members, but as long as they're not taking time off work and doing this and that, then that's all right.
And I don't think that's deliberate or incompetent. I just think that's innocent and perhaps naive. I think a lot of organizations would take umbrage at the very accusation, because that's what it would appear, that they don't take mental health seriously. I guess what we're exploring, and I'm thinking about for the first time really in this sort of depth, is that's difficult. And do organizations take the challenging steps beyond that sort of infrastructure to, as you say, proactively say, this is for real. We care about you enough to want to help you early enough to stop this becoming an issue. Maybe I'm not seeing that so much. And that's not an accusation of organizations or a challenge to their intentions, but maybe it's just a difficult thing to do. I don't know.
Mm, I think there's something around a culture, a workplace culture as well. And in some respects, it's for me, it's almost looking at it from the other angle. How do we promote good well-being in a workplace? And that's around sort of setting boundaries, maybe setting good examples, and managers leaving work on time and taking lunch
Yeah.
breaks and
Yeah.
well-being breaks. So actually, maybe we need to look at it from the other angle: is promoting good mental health rather than dealing with poor mental health.
And this is a performance issue. Organizations are constantly making very clear they're under huge pressure to perform with less people, with less resource, with greater demands. And so for me, this goes hand in hand with looking after your people best in order to get high performers across an organization instead of people who are struggling and can't perform as well. So there's good, strong, directly measurable business reasons to do this.
Yeah, everybody wins because if you're looking after your staff and your staff are well, then they
Mm.
can perform better and they're more productive. And it also links to staff morale a little bit more on that as well. I think if the workplace is an enjoyable space to work in and they feel supported, then that does again makes an impact on productivity and absenteeism and or presenteeism as well. There's that one. So
Mm. Well, I was in conversation. I'm just thinking about this now. I was in conversation with uh, a line manager, a unit manager. I won't mention any names. I really won't. And I it came up in the conversation. I said, "What is your absence rate where you are? Are people off a lot?" And this person said, "I've been in this organization 15 years this week. I've never taken a day off for sick." And then we had a conversation about how there's more sickness now in the workplace than there used to be. Maybe used to be last week, maybe used to be more likely 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago. So I think people are now taking time off more than they used to. And I suspect within that is not just coughs and splutters, but I just don't feel I can go in today. I think that's in there as well. And I think a manager, ironically, that says, "Look at me, I'm a superhero, I never take time off," maybe they're not the most empathetic or empathic people because that isn't who they are.
Mm. It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Oh, I like difficult ones. But it's we've never seen you mentioned before we call this, where do you want to go with this? I didn't think we'd go to a solution because the solutions are so organizational specific, unit specific, person specific.
Yeah.
And what are the solutions? I think the solutions are the sort of things we're talking about. Legitimizing it, talking about it, being proactive about it.
Mm.
Um,
And being individual, I think you just said there actually,
yeah.
it's an individual approach because everybody's different and everybody needs something different. So being able to work on a case by case basis and an individual basis, what would be helpful to that person? What's helpful to one person isn't going to be helpful to another person. So you can't just blanket deal with things in the same way.
How well do we know individuals in the workplace? That's a wider issue. I know. I used to work daily with people. I haven't done since 1992, since I started working for myself. I used to work in daily contact with people I knew very little about. People I didn't know about their families, I didn't know about their friends, I didn't know about their history. So sometimes we know a heck of a lot about the people we work with, and other times people are quite happy, thank you much, leaving things to themselves and not sharing, disclosing. Nothing's easy about this.
No.
I don't think, I'm not sure if we've taken the body of knowledge on how to manage mental health any further with this, other than to acknowledge how difficult it is.
Yeah, and I think that would be my key point is work with the individual on an individual basis.
Yeah, and care about them.
Yes, genuinely take an interest in them.
Okay, we could have gone on. This has not been an easy one, but I think it's given me some interesting thoughts. So I'll take with me afterwards again. Okay, let's leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.